Welcome to the program Psychological Studies. This program will be presented throughout 16 different modules. Today, the first module, Jesus, the psychologist of the spirit at present time. Our reflections will be based on Spiritism and specifically on the teachings of this benefactor spirit, Joana de Angelis, understanding that Spiritism is a science which deals with the nature, origin and destiny of the spirits and their relation with the corporeal world. Reincarnation, according to Spiritism, is a journey of a spiritual evolution, of a spiritual progress. Every being has been created in a state of simplicity and unawareness and is destined to achieve great levels of knowledge and morality as we progress, as we evolve. We are emerging from a long history of experiences throughout the plurality of existences, resulting in who we are today, individually or collectively. As human beings, we are made of three different aspects. Essentially, we are all spirits who have a perispirit, which is the spiritual body or the astral body, and we express ourselves when we are reincarnated as we are through the physical body. Therefore, we are all immortal beings. And while reincarnated, we express ourselves through the physical body. Reincarnation is a blessing through the justness of natural laws designed by our Creator, God. Learning to familiarize ourselves with the laws of God, understanding the reincarnation process where we activate the laws of cause and effect, and make efforts to overcome our immature or inferior ways of being, choosing to relate in a more altruistic, in a more compassionate manner with ourselves and with others as children of God. In the question 171 of the Spirit's Book by Allan Kardec, it was asked, what is the basis for the doctrine of reincarnation? And the enlightened beings, the enlightened spirits who are guiding humanity towards the process of evolution, answered, the justice of God and revelation. As we have already said, a loving parent always leaves the door of forgiveness open to his straying children. Doesn't reason convince you that it would be unjust to withhold happiness eternally from spirits who haven't had the chance to improve themselves? All of us are God's children. Injustice, unrelated hatred, everlasting punishments are concepts you find among self-centered and less advanced humans, but not in God. Remember, God is love. God is our merciful Father who created us with love for us to evolve spiritually. Through the plurality of existences, fundamental to understand that we have been created by God in order to evolve, and this is the reason to be on earth once more, with a new body and new opportunities for maturing our ability to discern what really is significant to us as immortal beings. Do we know already what is relevant in our existences? As immortal beings, we may ask ourselves, where is the focus of my life now? Which kind of understandings brought me where I am today? What are my belief systems which brought me where I am. How I'm living my life, from which perspective, from a materialistic viewpoint or from a spiritual perspective. I am happy or unhappy where I am. Observing humanity which we are part, we can easily recognize that we are undergoing a phase of tribulations, considering the evolution, the transformation of values that human society is experiencing as a consequence of our individual presence or individual participation, either consciously or unconsciously, through our thoughts and feelings, because they are ways of intrapersonal communication which impacts the world. Joana de Angelis, the spiritual benefactor, in her book Jesus e a Atualidade, teaches that Jesus was a profound expert of the psyche. He could easily understand the real causes which the unconscious of each person hides. Do we know what we hide from ourselves? The unconscious mind is the perispirit, where we store all the experiences throughout our existences. As learners, when we reincarnate, we bring with us our unique way of being, which manifests through our tendencies, behaviors, likes or dislikes, and so on. With the constant exercise of our free will, we conditioned ourselves, psychologically and emotionally, and therefore we created habits, attitudes, which could be constructive or destructive, positive or negative, depending how we used our free will so far. The development of free will has to do with our level of maturity, psychologically and emotionally. In that way, it is important for us to become aware of who we are, to get to know what we think, what we feel on a daily basis, in order to learn how to change unhealthy habits with healthy habits or healthy behaviors. I mean habits that correspond to the natural laws of life, which are good in the present and in the future. The moral, ethical values that are good for everyone, everywhere, all the time. That is the purpose for us to be once more in a physical body on the school of earth. We are unique beings, developing our individualization, whereas we are invited to activate, to exercise our internal potentials, which are the virtues such as humbleness. Is fundamental for us to develop humbleness. Why? As learners of ourselves, learning to be humble means learning to recognize that we all are essentially beings of goodness, but we are imperfect and now choosing freely to perfect ourselves in actualizing our belief systems or thoughts. Learning to develop discipline in order for us to be in control of what we think, what we feel, and what we do based on our goal of evolving. It is vital to discipline our thoughts, to discipline our emotions. In other words, to participate actively in our re-education process as beings in evolution. To develop responsibility from a transpersonal perspective means autonomy in choosing thoughts and feelings, and therefore actions which correspond to the natural laws, which helps us to condition ourselves in a more constructive way. Develop gratitude Is fundamental in this stage of evolution that we learn to be grateful in life. We all already received so much from God, from the Creator, and sometimes we still can be very ungrateful, which demonstrates our levels of selfishness. Developing gratitude means developing goodness within. Developing real happiness, which is possible for us even if we are evolving in a planet of trials and expiations. It's possible to be relatively happy when we develop resignation and obedience towards God, the Creator, who creates us all with love and is, let's say, guiding us towards the natural laws for us to reach real happiness. Develop self-love. Self-love, from a profound psychological perspective, means to get to know who we are as immortal beings, as divine beings in essence, and from that point onwards to engage freely and responsibly and developing us in relation to the divine, the sacred within us. Is accepting us as being of goodness as we all are, and that we all carry within the possibility to choose to be good despite in the environment where we may be learning. In order to do that, it is fundamental for us to be aware that life challenges us all the time. Sometimes through our immaturity, we think that life should always be easier as a child, but that is not how it happens. To overcome our internal resistances or shadows, such as pride, selfishness, intolerance, indiscipline, negativity, irresponsibility, laziness, excuses, procrastination, all the defenses. Or egoistic, self-centered tendencies, or self-centered desires or wishes. And why is that so relevant? Because they are the causes of our sufferings, the causes of our pains, the causes of our frustrations, the causes of our deceptions, depressions, insecurities, anxieties, and all sorts of conflicts, disturbances, and sometimes even the causes of our illnesses. If we do not work towards self-awareness and engage in a changing process freely, using our free will responsibly, overcoming our unhealthy ways of being, they will manifest through the physical illnesses. In order to achieve any superior goal, we need to be willing to compromise ourselves in becoming better beings, as it will impact our integral health and therefore impact the environment around us. Family environment, work environment, meeting groups which we may be part of, all sorts of human interactions will benefit from our movement of becoming better. We will cooperate to make Earth a better place to live amongst each other fraternally, and choose solidarity as a way of interacting within the community, within the society, as brothers and sisters in humanity. We are all members of the big family called humanity. In perceiving life, ourselves, and others from a profound psychological perspective, we start to realize that every experience can be observed from a different point of view, and above all, we bring innate the ability to choose what is best for us. Why do we bring innate that ability to choose what is best for us? Because we have been created by God, and we bring innate the divine wisdom. What suits us most as immortal beings who are responsible for our own choices and consequences of of them in our lives. Choosing wisely what we think, what we feel, and what we do, that brings consequences which are positive, which are constructive, which are elevated in our existences. Our destiny lies in our own hands. It is up to us to choose wisely or not, because we are constantly using our free will. We can use it responsibly or irresponsibly. If our choices are from an ego state of mind, we will experience negative, unhealthy consequences such as internal pressure, internal agitation, which can become very uncomfortable, but we are creating that. Fatigue, guilt, insomnia, anxiety, fears, insecurities, and all sorts of conflicts. The guilt usually is a consequence of the wrong choices, because we all bring the natural laws within us, and when we move against them, our internal nature feeds us back that movement. On the other hand, if our choices are from a state of mind coming from the self, the sacred, the divine within us, we will observe the feedback that our nature communicates to us, such as a feeling of calmness, inner peace, tolerance, tranquility, flexibility, adaptability, inner freedom, and so on. We are increasing our inner coping strategies, therefore taking less personal what comes from others' shortcomings. We learn to challenge our own belief systems, evaluate them if they are rational or irrational. Quite often we are driven by irrational patterns. Joanna de Angelis, the benefactor spirit, says that the psychotherapy that Jesus used to center on reincarnation, knowing that each person models their own destiny, living according to their own actions in past experiences. Past experiences can be referred to as the past minutes, the past hours, the past days, the past months, or the past years in this existence, or the experiences from past existences, which will result in states of happiness or unhappiness, personal fulfillment or emptiness, compassion or indifference, tolerance or intolerance, flexibility or rigidity. In other words, our intrapersonal or interpersonal experiences are based on the self or ego, which are parts of who we are and can be changed, can be actualized, if necessary, favoring our progress. Bear in mind that we are on earth as immortal beings, learning to live more and more according to the natural laws of life. In the current state of evolution, Jesus, being humanity's guide, is presenting us his proposal to achieve inner happiness, inner fulfillment, self-realization, which is possible to achieve through learning to love ourselves, learning to love others, and learning to love life. How do we do that? That is a question that we ask ourselves. By studying the natural laws of life. The enlightened spirits, in the Spirits book by Allan Kardec, explain the question 614. What is meant by natural law? And they answered, natural law is the law of God. It is the only law that is truly necessary for human beings to be happy. It shows them what they should or should not do, and they only suffer misfortune when they depart from it. This question, these teachings, these references which are given to us from the superior beings, the loving beings who are helping us to understand us within the natural laws, are very profound in our reflections. Because each time when we feel unhappy, when we feel like disconnected, or if we feel with internal pressure, or if we feel with guilt, as mentioned previously, that is the evidence that we are not moving within the natural laws. We have departed from them, but we can choose to come back in any moment when we realize that, when we accept that we may perhaps took the wrong decision, and choose in the present go back into the right pathway. In an aggressive society, Jesus chose love as the solution for all our problems, and forgiveness as the therapy for all illnesses or emotional and mental disturbances. Love for the solution of all our problems, and forgiveness as the therapy of all illness. Are we capable of forgiving ourselves? Are we capable of forgiving others? In order for us to learn to love us and others, it is vital to learn to forgive. Forgiving ourselves means to learn to accept us as we are, essentially beings of goodness, essentially beings of light, essentially beings of love, who are imperfect on the journey of evolution. Therefore, it is fundamental to understand that we are learners of ourselves in relation to the natural laws of life as much as others are too. Consequently, in engaging in our evolution process, learning that we are immortal beings moving within God's laws, as we have been created simple and ignorant, and are on the journey of self-discovery, realizing that our vices affect our lives negatively as much as the environment around us. Enlightening our shadows means to be reborn again, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. Learn to think constructively, sustain a constructive belief system, therefore developing inner balance, tranquility, serenity, and centeredness while we are learning. How can that be achieved? Developing self-awareness. It's true, we haven't learned that as children, but we can learn in any moment in our existences. In developing self-awareness in relation to what we think, what we feel, and what we do. In other words, it is learning to be aware, conscious, alert. Developing the ability to filter any negative aspect and educate our thoughts and emotions. We don't need to be enslaved by our automatized patterns. We can choose to change. We have that capacity within. Our higher self guides the education process of our limited, inferior emotions and thoughts. All of us have the higher self, the divine, the sacred, the inner power that we carry since our creation. How does the higher self favor this process? By training the mind to sustain a positive belief system, learning to challenge, to articulate our unhealthy patterns, activating our internal power, our internal qualities, our internal values of being of goodness, in exercising our inner freedom with responsibility, which means autonomy. In other words, favoring the process of activating our inner wisdom. Bear in mind that we all can change. We all are capable of developing our emotional intelligence. We all can practice goodness, and as more as we do it, easier it will become. Believe me, we all are capable. We always have different options in facing any situation. We can choose to engage with life challenges from an automatic emotional reactive response, which means usually in an unconscious state of mind, or take the responsibility to practice discernment, self-control, autonomy. For example, when we notice that we are blaming others for what we feel, we are invited to bring the focus back to us. Through self-awareness, realize that all emotions belong to us, and therefore stop blaming others as we take responsibility to learn to control them, to learn to re-educate them. No one can irritate us unless we are irritated. No one can make us feel angry unless we have that emotion. And in that way of thinking, we realize that we are the only ones responsible for all well-being or not. That is very powerful, because we are the authors of our own history, of our own destiny through our evolution path. Joanna presents Jesus as the greatest therapist, offering us a free therapeutic approach, mentioning that God is love, and the knowledge and practice of His laws will favor a self-actualization, an inner transformation, self-illumination movement or process, as change is part of the essence of love, the greatest power in the universe, which we all bring within the seeds. We all can learn to love from within. Even if we are not loved by others, we can learn, because we have all been created by God, who is love and loves us, and we are never alone throughout our journey of evolution. And in that way, let's choose to be better today than we were yesterday, and tomorrow better than today. We are all capable. We all can learn to be more fraternal amongst each other, more forgiving with each other, more helpful, more cooperative towards the good causes in the world. Let's engage in that movement of love, which is the power of God, which is guiding everyone and everything through the evolution and progress. And finally, may we all choose to be agents, to be instruments of peace and love, either within our families, within our workplace, within our communities, within society. Let's honor that great invitation for us to develop the power of love within. Sustain us within the love of God, which brings us peace within and expressed through our way of being around those who are living with us. Much peace to all. See you soon.